Hello, this is Brandon Pouliot from the CET. We're going to take a look at outcomes in Canvas, which is where you can pull in your institutional competencies, individual criteria, so a single criterion from those competencies, or even put in your course competencies, learning outcomes, things like that. Now, the only things that are provided right now, available right now for you in Canvas are going to be the institutional competencies, those individual criteria for each individual competency. Now, I'm in a brand new course here, so you want to go into your course. You'll see the outcomes tool here. You might have a few more items on your left-hand side here, but I'm going to click on outcomes. These have to be imported, which we don't actually use the import tool, but you're going to want to use the find tool here in the outcomes area. All of those have already been set up. So if I go in here and I can click find, it's going to make me click through a few things here. You can see if we go to Laramie County Community College, institutional competencies, you'll see the list of 10 competencies here. Now, I'm going to show you how to import a couple of these, right? So if I click here on quantitative reasoning, we'll see the individual criteria here. Now I can click on one of these, I can preview how I can score it. So we've got the exceptional, proficient, developing, insufficient, and no evidence. How these items are scored. So it is what's called a weighted average. The most recent scoring of this particular item counts for 65% of a student's average score on this, their mastery, and all the rest count as that 35%. Now, I can click import, and it's going to warn me, do you want to import that competency? You'll notice the naming scheme for these is IC dash whatever number competency it is. They're not ranked by importance. It is simply a numerical value taken from how they are listed in LCCC documentation. And then .01 means the first criterion for institutional competency 01. Once you import these, you'll always see those names right there, but you can look and see quickly what those are just by that short name. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You'll see my outcomes tool now has IC-01.01 representation. If I click on it here, which it's already selected, you can see it shows up in the right hand side where I can review that same information. Now, if you need to import more of these, say I need to import application, it's going to bring me, once I hit that find button, to that same exact place. I can go back, click find, even if I need to do another one, so I can click on problem solving and do task analysis here. We're going to import that as well. We'll say okay. I'll go ahead and do one more. How about, we'll say collaboration and fostering teamwork. Great. So now I've got 4 of these outcomes, institutional competency criteria, imported into my course in Canvas. So again, recommendation is to use a master course so you can move these from your master course to your semester-based course, and you've already got them set up there. You don't have to update that every single semester. Now we need to figure out how we're going to attach them to things, and how you assess these is actually via rubrics. So I don't have any assignments in here. There's a couple ways we can go about this. I can go into my assignments area, or the way that I like to do it actually is just to create things in my modules. So let's say we're going to call this week 1 here. Once I go in, I can add my overview, all that kind of stuff, but I'm just going to go ahead and add my assignment here, call it homework assignment 01, like that double-digit stuff there. Remember, if we're going to make these available to students, we have to publish either the module, publish the module and everything underneath. So I'm just going to go ahead and click publish. We'll publish everything for the moment. If I want to edit this, which I need to in order to add a rubric, I have to click on it, which is going to take me to the homework assignment page. Now, I would highly recommend adding your details and everything in here. So adding how many points it is, instructions, We can go there. I'm going to say it's worth 10 points. You can put it in a specific assignment group or add a new group. What do you want the grade displayed as? All of that kind of stuff. What kind of submission? So I would recommend going through all of these. I'm not really going to go over them now. I'm just going to say, great, I've got that all set up. We'll save it. And now you see I have an opportunity to add a rubric here. Now, if I go in, the first thing I want to do after hitting plus rubric is I want to say, have a name for it. Now, I'm just going to say it's a rubric for homework 01. You can make it more generic, homework rubric, something like that, but it needs to make sense to you and to your students. The first thing that I would do down here is add your criteria. So say they're going to be different than your institutional criteria that you put in. That's perfectly fine. You want to add your own, and then I would recommend towards the bottom putting in those institutional competency criteria. That's a mouthful. Say it 5 times fast. So I can go in here and I know I'm mixing disciplines here, but say this is a paper that I'm expecting folks to turn in. I can say APA format, right? If I want to add a long description, adheres to 6th edition of the AP if I can type APA format. Great. I can update that. I can set how I want it. I can say they get 0 or 5 points. I can add ones in the middle. Say, hey, folks are doing okay here. You can add, edit, remove all of these, and you're going to see that these individual ones, like you can even add a range. That's a new feature. So 0 to 3 points is okay. 3 to 5 points is full marks. Great. If you want to add additional criteria, you can hit the plus here. You can also duplicate these criteria if you would like to. I'm only going to add one just so that you can see how that works. But now I actually want to find outcomes here. So watch, if I hit criterion, I can duplicate my APA format. But I want to find my outcomes. That's the whole reason I imported them. You can see I've got all mine here that I imported into my course. Now, you have a couple of options here. You can use this for scoring. So if you want to assess your students for this particular assignment or all of them based on these institutional competencies, you can do so by leaving this box checked. Note that the default is to use these criteria for scoring. Now, if you just want to use these institutional competencies for assessment purposes, say on a Common Course assessment or something like that, but not to affect the student's grade, you can uncheck that box. So we'll go ahead and import this real quick. And again, you will have to do these one by one, but you should see them pop up in that same location. So I'm just going to go through this process again and again here, similar to the other process of importing these from that top level account into my course, but I can click here and just say, we're going to pull all of these in. Great, find outcome. Great, I've got all of those in there. You'll notice on the right-hand side over here, I can't change the points. You'll also notice that it gives me a threshold and that generic description of what 0 means, what 4 means, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I do want to check use this rubric for assignment grading. If you want to write free-form comments, you can do that, but there's also a way to add individual feedback to that through the speed grader. Once I'm done here, I've got all of my competencies. I'm going to click Create Rubric. You can see leaving these things different will be a problem. Let's go back, we'll change this. And I can make the assignment worth 5 points since that's all I've added here. Note that Canvas is pretty good at figuring out when you need to change things and when you can leave them the same. Now, real quick, I'm going to go in as a student, so I'm going to use Student View, and we're going to submit to this real quick so we can see what it looks like when grading or assessing based on that. So I've got my homework assignment here. I'm going to go ahead and click in. Give Canvas a second to catch up with me. I'm a little impatient on clicking here. We're going to choose a file. I've got tons and tons of files here. So let's go into, actually we'll go into my Canvas area here. And I'm going to throw in maybe one of my training things. So I've got a trainer agenda right there. Great. That's my assignment that I want to turn in. You can see here's my PDF. Boom, I've submitted an assignment. You'll note that this rubric here, if I go down, you'll note that this says 5 points, and everything I chose not to score shows the student that it is not worth anything as far as the assignment goes, but it is something that is tied to this assignment. Now, it might take a little bit of time to explain to your students, hey, these are the institutional competencies that are listed in the syllabus that we're assessing you on, and they are tied to this particular homework assignment. That's easy enough to explain. That should be highlighted in the syllabus. The language should be relatively familiar to students. If they want to view a longer description, what does representation mean? They can see that demonstrates mastery of mathematical information in a variety of modes: symbols, visuals, numerical, and verbally. So students have all of the information of what they're being assessed on here. If I click Leave Student View, it's going to take me back to this homework assignment, and now as the instructor I can go in and click on the Speed Grader. You'll notice that the Speed Grader has quite a few different options. Hey, look at that, it's the Train the Trainer agenda. Great. Now I want to grade that. If I want to move this over, make my preview smaller, but make it so I can see my whole rubric, you can see that I can give my 3 to 5 points here, and then I can actually assess the student. Down here on the institutional competencies, I can add individual comments if I want to update those comments, and once I'm done I can actually hit save. Now you can see my assessment here did move up, right? So my 5 out of 5 moved up to my grade, and you can actually close this tab. If you want to add additional comments, you can add them at the bottom. Once you're done, you can hit submit. You can close this tab. You'll notice that I actually have this full screen, but you can actually look at these little tabs up here, and it will actually allow you just to go right back to Canvas. So if I go back and I click on Homework Assignment 1, it's going to take me back in here. You can see I've graded that submission. One more thing to do, I'm going to go back, look at my student view, just so I can see what that looks like. Here's my grade, boom, great. I can go into my homework assignment. And I can actually see over on the right here, I can see my rubric evaluation. So I can go in, it will let me preview my file over here if I want to. It will also let me look at what grades I got and see any commentary that was left. Hopefully that's helpful when you're looking at assessing with outcomes. Please make sure that you add your institutional competency, the individual criteria to your Common Course assessment at least, or any other assessments within your course.